And joining us today in our Book Talk segment, it's a great pleasure to welcome a man who's really put a book together that is very fascinating to read. It's called The Owner's Manual for the Brain, the Ultimate Guide to Peak Mental Performance at All Ages. We're joined today by Dr. Pierce J. Howard from up in North Carolina. And Dr. Howard, thanks for joining us. I know this book just came out. You've been busy talking to all us media folks, but congratulations on it. A very interesting book.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
This is the fourth edition of the book, but as we all know, when you're dealing with anything to do with medicine or the brain, I guess in particular, we're learning more and more all the time, aren't we?
Well, it's amazing. You know, the 90s were the so-called decade of the brain, and it was really the birth of brain research per se. In fact, brain research didn't really get a kickstart until the Second World War, when there were so many brain injuries and people had all of these specimens that they could look at and start studying. And so what's happened now is that there are new aspects of brain research popping up every year. One year you hear about the neuroscience of pets. Another year it's the neuroscience of mathematics. And then all of a sudden it's the neuroscience of music. And so you have all these different branches coming up to the tree of brain science. So there's certainly plenty of reason to be updating the user's manual every 5 or 6 years.
And I know also in the sports news, we're hearing more and more about it, particularly with football players, hockey players as well, with the brain injuries that have been going on there. So I know a lot of study has been going into how collisions in those sports affect the brain over time.
Particularly with children, but with adults even, also. One of the things that we have made a big push for is that in football, for example, we think that there should be a trained concussion trainer, a concussion expert, not an MD level person, but somebody who is trained in when to recognize how to recognize concussion and when to take a kid out of the game. And we maintain that every football team, practice and game, should have a concussion expert or specialist who is not paid by the team in any way, so that they can make an independent decision and not be beholden to either the coach or the parents. It's a tough situation. I mean, everybody wants to be macho and tough and stay in the game, and the price they pay for it is the risk of significant dementia and depression in midlife.
In your opinion, Doctor, I don't know if you've studied this specifically, but you do study the brain in sports. Are there more concussions today, or are we just because the players are bigger, or have they always been there? We're just hearing more about it now.
It's a good question. I don't know that I have seen data about concussion being on the rise. Rather, I think it is now being more identified. NFL players are coming forth and having the wherewithal to say, wait a minute, not only do we need to do something about prevention, but we need help with our expenses, and the NFL needs to take care of us in that regard.
Yeah.
One of the problems, Doug, is that as the equipment gets better, for example, when you make an improvement to a helmet, what do? You play with that much more abandon.
Right.
And it reduces the effect of the improvement.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is not necessarily known for its football. It's my alma mater, but they have a good medical school there. And one of the things that they do in every practice and game, the players wear brain monitors in their helmets, and they monitor the impact of every hit, of every play in the game and in the practice. And what would you guess is the single play at a football game that registers the most intense impact on the brain?
I guess the blocking, right? When they block each other?
It's the kickoff.
It's called the suicide squad, right? Sure, right.
Yeah. And they get up this huge head of speed on the kickoff, and the contacts can be devastating.
Yeah. And also the blockers as well on the line. Those guys are getting hit several times on each play too. So it's maybe less impact or less force, but a cumulative impact. So yeah, it's a lot to deal with.
One solution to that is to make the kickoff shorter.
Yeah.
So they can't build up as big a head of steam.
Yeah, I know they want to. At least you hear people talking about eliminating that play from the game entirely. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but that's one thing they're talking about. I know that. But let's talk a little bit about some of the more positive aspects of the owner's manual for the brain, Doctor. I mean, you go into also the things that people can work on, things like happiness, improving sleep, creativity, all kind of mysteries of the brain, how it actually works in there. I guess let's start with achieving happiness. A lot of people want to do that. That's something you can work on in your own brain, huh?
Well, that's a sizable order. Let me see if I can summarize it briefly. The research is pretty convincing, Doug, that there is a genetic basis for happiness. Mm-hmm. That probably in the vicinity of 60% of the explanation for why some people are more happy than others is attributable to our inheritance. And what it really, without going into the details of it, which is explained in the book, roughly 1 person in 9 is born happy. And they're not going to really be any other way. They have an abundance of positive emotion and a minimum of negative emotion, and that's what we call happy. And they're just born that way. The rest of us are not born happy. We're happy from time to time, but not day in and day out, all day and all night, the way that 1 in 9 is. And so my proposal, based on the research, is that there are 5 ways of being that will cause us to experience the most positive mood imaginable. It's not necessarily happiness, but it feels good. It makes one feel that one's life has meaning. Mm. And very briefly, these 5 are flow, the state of flow, which means being totally engaged in what you're doing so that you kind of lose the sense of time and place and temperature. Just being totally lost and engaged in what you're doing. And a second way to manage yourself to feel very satisfied about the way your life is going is to what we call fit. It's making sure that your abilities, your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your behavioral traits are a good fit with the kind of work and the kind of life you live. If you are a mathematician stuck in a job that requires a lot of language and not much math, that's not a good fit. If you're an introvert trying to do door-to-door sales, that's not a very good fit. So having a good fit between who you are and what you do, where your work and your life build on your strengths and not on your weaknesses, that's the second thing. The third thing has to do with goals. And what the research has shown, Doug, is that it's not, the important thing is not that you have 1 or more goals in life, like building a mountain cabin or getting a degree or writing a book. It's not so important that you have goals. What's important is that you make progress towards those goals. I know a guy that's told me 10 years ago he's going to write a book about leadership, and he's never gotten started. So it doesn't do you any good to have a goal if you're not going to make progress on it. And then, of course, the last 2 recommendations for happiness are to maintain quantity and quality of relationships, keeping up with old friends, keeping up with family, having a confidant that you can talk to closely, making it a priority to keep up with your relationships. In fact, one of the things that one of the best preventives that you can have against Alzheimer's and dementia is by avoiding solitude and having lots of good, healthy relationships with friends. Mm. And then the final mode of positive being is simple altruism or service. which is there was a nun in England back in the early 20th century that once made the comment, "Service is the rent that we pay for our stay on planet Earth." And there's a lot of truth to that. That the act of serving others and helping out, as it were, is very soothing. It has the same effect of chocolate without the calories. It has the same effect of exercise without the exertion, and so forth. It actually has a positive chemical effect on our systems.
Yeah, good to know, and good information all in this book, and it's so much in here we can only touch the surface. I'll wrap it up with this question, Doctor. I think a lot of people, particularly in our audience down here in Sarasota, maybe some older adults may be listening. I guess they say, can you still learn at maybe an advanced age? Does the brain have that capacity? I think you talk about that in the book, don't you?
Absolutely. In fact, I maintain that aging gets a bad rap. When people talk about the effects of aging, it's more likely than not, it's not the effect of aging, it's the effect of poor choices over the decades. Mm-hmm. It's not eating right, it's not getting adequate exercise, it's not continuing to learn new things, it's taking prescription medications when it's not totally necessary for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's leading a sedentary lifestyle rather than being as more active. It's leading a solitary life rather than having friends. And the effect of all these things over time, not eating right, not exercising, being excessively sedentary and all that, the effects of those is what people call aging. You take an individual who is active, learning new things, eats right, exercises, maintains friends, etc. Those people don't appear to age. Mm. I mean, I've got an 88-year-old friend that plays 2 sets of tennis a day, and he's hard to keep up with. And so it's not aging itself. Yes, we slow down some as we age, but we are just as capable of learning. And in fact, there's recent research. There was a Time magazine devoted to learning in one's seniority a few months ago that was saying that the research is showing that seniors do not lose their capacity to learn. They may learn more slowly, but the capacity is still there.
Well, good to know. And again, the name of the book is The Owner's Manual for the Brain, filled with this type of fascinating information. We've been talking with Dr. Pierce J. Howard today. I know this book just came out this week, the revised edition, but give out a website, Doctor, if people can get a hold of the book or get a hold of you.
Yes. My website is www.centax.com. The book is published by William Morrow, and it's available through local booksellers as well as electronic stores such as Amazon.
Doctor, appreciate you taking a few minutes. I know you're doing a lot of these, but great information, and look forward to talking to you again sometime. Thanks for joining us.